You got to stay cool. Yeah, you got to stay cool. And your clients would react to how you react. So if your planner is, I would say, like, if your planner is freaking out, your clients are going to freak out. Like, if the person that's in charge of producing any celebration is like, oh my gosh, then everybody's going to like panic too. So even if I'm freaking out on the inside, I'm just like, it's going to be okay. We have it.
Yeah.
We've got it. Don't worry. But deep down, I'm like, oh my goodness. But, that's why I say you have to go into problem solution.
Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. Receipts are evidence or proof that something has occurred. Our guests are evidence that Black excellence is alive and well. They will be sharing their receipts on how they've been able to accomplish so much in their life. I'm your host, Tony Jackson. Let's get started. Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. I am super excited to announce our guest today. I'm going to share a little bit of her bio. Akeshi Akinseye is a renowned party and wedding planner, floral designer, event designer, lifestyle expert, author, speaker, and entrepreneur. Her vision is to inspire and empower people to celebrate all of life's moments in style and elegance, not just on their wedding day. With a career dedicated to bringing glamour and style to every celebration, Akeshi is the founder and CEO of Akeshi Events, a luxury planning and design firm known for curating events for discerning clients. She is also the force behind The Art of Celebrating magazine, a lifestyle magazine providing inspiration for celebrations, homes, and life. Akeshi brings weddings, events, and celebrations of all kinds to life across the globe. Her expertise has earned her recognition as one of the leading experts in the wedding and event industry, named one of the best wedding planners in America by Brides, and a top wedding planner by Party Slate. Her positivity, keen eye, attention to detail, and dedication to curating her craft are just a few reasons why her clients adore her. Akeshi brings creativity and personalization to every single event, making every experience one to remember. Akeshi's work and insights have been featured in national publications like People Magazine, Architectural Digest, Brides, Grace Amon Wedding Style, Inside Weddings, Modern Luxury Weddings, Mona Lucci Brides Magazine, Party Slate, New York Times, Wedlux, ESPN, Yahoo, ABC, and more. As a best-selling author, Akeshi has authored the books Festive Tables and The Art of Floral and Event Design, and is a sought-after speaker at seminars and conferences. Akeshi has appeared as a guest on TV segments and radio interviews, sharing her expertise and passion for celebrating life's moments in style. When Akeshi is not designing celebrity weddings, writing a book, or recording a podcast, you may find her exploring antique stores for vintage pieces, at brunch with friends, I can attest to that, or on a rare day, binging a series on Netflix. She finds inspiration in all her travels and loves spending time with her husband, who supports all of her endeavors with passion, humor, and endless love. And we have her here today. I want to welcome my sister from another Mr., Akeshi Akinseye. Akeshi, I'm so happy to have you.
I feel like you need a tall glass of water after that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited. That was a long one, but it had to be said. Your background, your accomplishments are amazing. Let's dive right into it, Akeshi. So it's been said that money earned is a representation of problems solved. Explain to me what problems you solve with this incredible brand that you have, the multi-passion that you have in different areas. What are the problems that you're solving for people?
I would say my focus is really about creativity or lack thereof, or the confidence to do it, right? So whether it's weddings or hanging out with friends or dinner, my sole mission in life is to help people with the problem of like how to do it more beautifully, more elegantly, with more, just more fun. So yeah, that's my goal.
That is awesome. Akeshi, talk to me about your creative process, because from the outside looking in, it just looks like you just magically whip up ideas like whoosh, a magazine, whoosh, candles, whoosh, this this design idea for this space. And I know you collaborate with some of the people that you're planning events for, but talk to me about where you find this inspiration. How do you actually create?
Yeah, I know it's more difficult when I just have to say it because a lot of the creatives it's in our heads and we
Mm,
process things for me. But like for me, inspiration is it could be anything, anywhere. It could be a pattern on a shoe. It could be something I saw driving. It could be architecture. It could be patterns on a notebook. It can be a person, usually like a couple, right? There's just something about them. It could be a personality or a mood. So it comes from everywhere, truly. And I would say like nature is a huge factor for me. We talk a lot about stepping outside, getting some fresh air, connecting with nature. Sometimes when you have a creative block, you see something that could be anything. Sometimes the where is the inspiration. Like if you did Paris, you're thinking love, you're thinking, all the bells and whistles. So the location sometimes helps, but it could be anything really. And it takes time. It's not easy. It takes you processing, reprocessing and trying to figure it out so you actually get it. Like, so it's storytelling, but it's a process.
absolutely. And I remember going through the process when us getting married, just seeing you in action and seeing how you were working with Mercy and how you guys started with these ideas in your head and kind of it was almost like a movie, right? It was almost like you guys had ideas and then you kind of collaborated and almost like a storyboard and this is how it's gonna be. And then you guys put all this whole amazing process together. So that was really dope being able to see you in action firsthand. It was really special. Um, what does in a person like you who has such a creative work in so many different areas, what does a typical day look like for you?
Like the actual event day,
Or no, just
scene of
just it could be that. It could be day in the life. It could be the actual event day, whatever you're thinking.
yeah, yeah. So prior to that whole process of like pre-event preparation is, I mean, lots of coffee, a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. There's a lot of hours that actually goes into that. A lot of packing, a lot of chasing down packages, a lot of mail until the actual day. And then, of course, the wedding day for us or event day is typically very early, like where everyone is still asleep. We are on it, we're packing, we're loading, it doesn't stop. It's usually almost a 24-hour day for production, but we're so used to that. And my consolation, I tell my team, is like, we don't do it every single day. So let's just like mentally, so we're usually mentally prepared and we're going in like ready for whatever. So, and then, there's the joy, like I think the reward is like, I know it's tough right now, but just wait till like 12 hours from now when it's all done and they get to see it or they get to experience it, no matter the size. And you're like, okay, we're working towards something. I think that's the beauty of creativity. So you don't see the final product yet, but the excitement of what you're building and what you can produce is like what keeps you going. Because then you're like, why am I not tired till you're done? You're like, oh my God, I can't do it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of back and forth. There are a lot of challenges because there's a lot of things we can't control. Like a lot of things come in the mail, a lot of things FedEx, UPS, human error, right? Things, miscommunication. I mean, there's a ton, but people don't see that. They just see the beauty. So it looks easy and effortless, but I promise you it's not. It's fun, it's rewarding, but it is one of the hardest jobs I've ever had.
Let's talk about that. What is some of the misconceptions that people may have about being this wedding planner, being this event planner, and maybe from the outside, they're seeing one aspect, one picture, but they're missing like, what is something that people don't know about the work that you're doing? Especially the people who may want to aspire to do it as well, right? Because I'm sure some people sit back saying, wow, look at these beautiful magazine pictures.
Yeah. So people think that event planning or my job is this blissful, cocktails and tastings and travel. And we get to go to these amazing places, right? So we show like the journey of the checking in, arriving in Paris, or, the end result, and we go to a tasting and we're, trying out cocktails. And I think for some people, they think it's this beautiful. And of course, you've seen the wedding planner, the movie. J-Lo was all kinds of cute, and that we wish. It's a lot of the opposite, right? So you see a snippet of it, and I guess we try to make it look good and make it look enjoyable, which it is. But it's really hard to show people challenges because you're in it, and we go right into problem solving mode. But the reality is, while it could be exciting and fun, there's a lot of work, and it's a huge responsibility. It's not just a title where you're like, "Oh, I'm a wedding planner." That, to me, that's saying that I'm responsible. Like, I'm honored, first of all, that they choose me, but I'm also responsible for the end result, like the memory. Like, think about your wedding. If it went the other direction, you would always remember me as that person, as that planner that did this, right? So my responsibility is big, and the weight that I carry is like, you cannot leave my experience with anything but good things. So that's a big job. And I think people need to understand that when you commit to being a planner, yes, all the bells and whistles, but understand that this is one person's one chance to, it's one of the biggest events they'll ever have in their lifetime, right? So we have to take that as a, badge of honor, take it seriously, and do your job, under promise, over deliver, knock it out, and then take a nice long nap on Sunday or take a week vacation if you have to. But there is a level of commitment, that comes with it that people don't see or don't think process as well. It's not just bells and whistles. It's a big ask.
Absolutely. And just listening to you, it seems it's obvious that, managing expectations, executing, leading a team, kind of being in unison are all very important skill sets. Talk to me about what other skill sets are required. Let's say if I was an aspiring wedding planner, what kind of skill sets would be necessary? What kind of habits would be necessary for me to establish, for me to be able to succeed?
One, you got to be able to work under pressure. You can't crumble. You have to be able to work under pressure. You have to be able to think, be more problem solution. Like, I'm more like, oh, the building is, God forbid, it's burning down. I'm like, we need fire extinguishers. Like, we're thinking there's no room for panic. And when you have a team, they're following your lead, so you have to pay attention to that. Whatever you do, they're going to repeat. So that, being able to top the last, so continue to push the envelope, push your creativity, invest in education. I can't stress that enough. Actually learn the business of what you're going into. Like, there's an art to that. It's not just the fluff or hobby. There's a process. And if you don't know that, then you're doing a disservice to yourself and also your clients, right? And your audience and people that follow you. But at the same time, it's about investing in knowing the proper way to do it, having a mentor or coach, knowing the start to finish, and then of course there's a whole business side. Like, we wear many hats, or therapists, or creators, planners, but you have to know how to run an actual business, right? From money to legal to just business keeping to software. Like, this is a real business. I know a lot of times we'll say wedding planner, it's this cute little hobby, but it's not. It's a profession, and it takes a lot of maneuvering every single day just to keep the ball rolling, right? And of course, you have to keep innovating and pushing yourself to be better than the last one, which is challenging, especially if the last one was great. And we're like, okay, what do we do next, right? So that's a challenge, but it's exciting and I love it. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that there's always room for more, but you have to get the basics down. And if that means investing in education courses, a coach, going to school for it, do what you have to do so you step into that business knowing about it.
Absolutely. And to speak to the idea of working under pressure, I remember at our wedding, I believe it was 2 weeks before our wedding, we got bumped by our church. We had to find a new venue like 2 weeks before. And I just remember how you approached that whole situation. It was like,
crazy.
We're freaking out. We're, oh my God, how is this going to work? and you were cool and calm and you executed. It actually turned out better. The church that you found, it was more beautiful. And so, yes, I saw you in action. You definitely are cool and calm and impressive.
You got to stay cool. Yeah, you got to stay cool. And your clients would react to how you react. So if your partner is, I would say, like, if your partner is freaking out, your clients are going to freak out. Like, if the person that's in charge of producing any celebration is like, oh my gosh, then everybody's going to like panic too. So even if I'm freaking out on the inside, I'm just like, it's going to be okay. We have it. We've got it. Don't worry. But deep down, I'm like, oh my goodness. But, that's why I say you have to go into problem solution. The moment I'm hearing a problem, I'm already solving it in my head. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I go, so you don't crumble under pressure. You do your best to just stick with it and find a solution, because there's no problem that cannot be solved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You also mentioned, right. You also mentioned the multiple roles that you play for the client when we're talking about wedding planning, playing the therapist, playing the coach. Talk to me about the emotional side, because you're dealing with a very, very interesting client. And I'm not asking you to name any names, don't name any names, but I'm just saying you're dealing with brides, and we know the whole stereotype of a bridezilla. How do you help maintain your composure? How do you help counsel and calm down the bride who, today is her day and she's a princess? How do you work with all of that stuff going on?
That's what I was saying. Several things, but I was saying one, going into this business, knowing that you're going into an emotional business, especially if you're doing weddings, right? So you have to know that going in, and you got to toughen up, tough skin. Maybe your first experience might cut deep. You do what you got to do, but you have to go into this business knowing the emotional stress that you're going to execute. I also understand that a lot of action or behavior, or maybe random behavior, it's not really intentional. And it's, even if something is my fault, it's really not my fault. And we know it, right? But you have to, so I try, it's hard because we're human beings, and I try not to take everything personally, and to look beyond the emotion I'm receiving and saying, how do we get there? It could be stress from family, it could be stress from, it could be monetary, and maybe there was a budget, or, so I said, it's not about me. And when you go into I'm in a service business, so I know that services, I'm here for you. It's about you. It's not about me. Yes, mutual respect, don't get me wrong, is absolutely necessary. But you have to go in knowing that not every emotional outburst is really for you or about you. It's deeper. So I give a little bit of a wiggle room. And then if there's a conversation that needs to be had, we'll have it. Nice hearing. But for the most part, I try not to take things personally.
Right. Absolutely. Let's talk about work-life balance. There's a lot of conversation these days about work-life balance, conversations about mental health, conversations about, can a person have it all? Can they have the family life and the work life, and, and then still be able to, go have brunch on the weekends? Some people say, no, you got to devote every minute to your business, and, you just grind. Some people try to build a lifestyle business where they fit the business into their lifestyle. What are your thoughts on work-life balance?
Well, I don't know if you've heard this question when they say, you're working to live or you're living to work. And it's something that where you have to pause and think about it, am I working to live or am I living to work? Right. So I think it's about finding a healthy balance of everything. Right. The way I go about it is, I think first of all, awareness. You have to listen to your body, your mind, when it's not okay. And especially as a creative, if I'm not okay, nothing is okay. I'm just giving from an empty cup, and I'm not giving my best. And because I take pride in my work, I want to give you my absolute best. So if that means that I turn on my auto office and let my clients know that I'm not available for the next 3 days or the weekend because of whatever reason, I'm taking that time. I am notorious for taking time if I need it. I'll be at the spa. I would turn off my phone. I would do my auto office. you have to be okay with taking breaks because you're going to burn out. And while we're talking about emotional on the other side, we too get emotional. And then you may send an email out of frustration and then you can't take it back, right? You've left an impression. You may react to your team out of frustration and burnout, but then they didn't deserve it. Now you have to apologize and they may never forget it, right? So awareness of how you are, and when you're pushing yourself too much, too much. I've had many, many years ago episodes where my body literally just shut down. And, I was like, I wasn't aware that my body was that tired. I was just pushing and pushing and pushing. Like, we're not machines. So resetting, I look at us as a vehicle. When you run out of gas, you run out of oil, and that car's not going anywhere. You can push it all you want. It's not driving, right? So how's your gas tank? Are you empty? Are you halfway? Are you full? And it's something to be aware of as you're navigating life. And while you're taking care of other people, you have to take care of yourself. So it's just about healthy balance. And, I always joke, and I know we're talking about the other day, I said, find healthy moments of joy, healthy pockets of joy. You may not be happy 24 hours a day, but find little moments of peace and happiness. It could be enjoying your cup of coffee uninterrupted, by the way. Like, we don't want you sipping your coffee and trying to answer an email. Like, sit. And that could just be your happy 5 minutes. And then you're like, all right, let's do this. Right. So I believe in working in compartments too, where in whatever compartment I'm in, I'm fully present. So the idea of doing multiple things at the same time, you get nothing out of that. So I try to shift myself into, if I'm spending time with friends, I'm completely fully there. So I'm full and present in that moment. If I'm with a client, my phone is off and I'm fully attentive to my clients. If I'm traveling and I say, this is our time with my husband, I'm completely fully present. So that's like my trick. It's difficult because I'm like, what is my work-life balance? And I think it's personal per person because we all know what we need. Some people need more, some people need less, and you have to be aware of what you need. So I don't know if that helps anyone, but that's how I approach it.
Absolutely. No, I think it's important. I've asked that question to so many people, and I feel like everybody has somewhat of a different answer, and a lot of it depends upon, and from what I'm seeing is, maybe the business they're working in, or different things that they're doing. So that was an awesome answer. My next question is, what do I need to understand about your earliest years to understand who you are today? Like, what do I need to understand about you from when you were growing up as a little kid that would give me insight on the woman that you've become today?
That's a long journey, long explanation. But I was actually doing some writing last night. I couldn't sleep. I was doing some writing. And funny enough, I had to dig deeper into this question. And the bottom line is the person I am is a full-blown version of who I was as a kid. I don't know if that makes sense. So my childhood, my mother, huge part of my life in terms of how I became an adult, a woman, a business owner, everything goes back to my upbringing. Celebrations was a thing. We used to host. I used to follow my mom everywhere because, I'm my favorite daughter. I say it like siblings love it, and I say that because they're like, what? But I was obsessed with creative things as a kid, right? But I used to say I would go to school for psychology, everything but the creative field. And my parents gave me the freedom to play with all the things in my head, right? So if I said I wanted to be a caterer, they're like, go ahead. Wish you the best. I hope you get all the weddings and get all the catering gigs. If I said I wanted to be this, so like, give it a shot. So never once was I convinced to do something different, which is very not norm for a Nigerian household. You're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be an engineer, or a wedding planner is not on that list. But they kind of let me be and just follow my crazy dream. And I've never felt hindered or stopped in my process of finding my joy, right? Which is just bringing people together and making them happy, even if it's for 4 hours, or sharing ways you can create your own happiness at home. It doesn't have to be a wedding, right? So my entire role. But when I go back, it just goes back to when I was a little kid. I was a curious human being. I used to get in trouble a lot because I used to take things apart. I was always curious, and because I used to get in trouble, my mom would send me to her tailor, so I learned how to sew. My mom would send me to go help her bake, and she's like, "We got to do something with your hands. Like, stop, unscrewing the DVD and stop touching the electronics. Let's get you in a creative environment." And truly, that's how I started to. I used to bake as a kid and sew, but it's funny when you go back and look at your passions now. A lot of times, for me, I'll speak for myself. It goes back to you as a kid, and those little things that were forming. Right? I don't think our habits or our talents just appear in your 40s or your 30s. Right? It's always been in you. I think it's about how your upbringing allowed you to explore that, or kind of minimize it. Right? And for me, it was knock yourself out. There was zero pressure to be anything but what I said I was going to be. And, they're just always proud with whatever direction, and any celebration was a big thing. But I go back to how my mom used to host and she used to entertain. And I used to be like, when are these people leaving? Like, how many do we're cooking, we're hosting, we're feeding people. They need to go. And sometimes they just stay. So they're like, well, bring the sheets. I'm like, this is never ending. But I understand now how taking care of people in hospitality makes people feel, right? Being a good host is about embracing them, being warm and catering to people. And I try to bring that same attitude into my work now, no matter how small or big the event is to bring that sense of warmth and hospitality into everything. So then they feel it, right? But yeah, it's a longer story. I feel like I need to write a book about that, but
Right.
For me, it goes all the way back to as little as 8, maybe, that I can remember.
Wow. Wow. So, and first of all, shout out to your mom, right? Because I've had several Nigerians, not just Nigerians, I've had several Africans from different places on this podcast, and their options are pretty much all the same.
It's just 3.
It's just 3. And you're the first person who I've heard who said, my parents told me, they supported my creativity. They supported, event planning and all this kind of stuff. So definitely shout out to mom. So when you were young, did you always see yourself as a creative? Did you always see yourself as artistic? Or did you kind of just feel like you were curious about different things?
I think to me, I was just like, anything to be closer to my mom was what I was doing. I was just like, if she was cooking, I was in the kitchen with her. But then I was picking up all these things. If she was setting up for a wedding, I was holding the pins for her. Just anything to be near her. And then I just found myself learning the things by being around. Like, I learned how to cook just watching her cook. Even outside of home, when we used to go get our hair braided, I learned how to braid by just watching them braid. But it never clicked to me that I pick things up. And that's how I learned. I just have to watch something and then I'll try it and then add my spin to it, right? But I never know what kid thinks I'm a creative as a kid. Like, we're just like, I guess I'm just, what's next? What are we doing next? And look at that as part of that. But as you grow up and become an adult, you start to repeat these things and people start to see it even before you. Like, you keep throwing these random dinner parties. I used to just throw random rooftop parties and like host people. And they're like, why don't you just make this a profession? I'm like, I'm not interested in that. But they're like, well, you're always doing parties and you do all this. And when I go back, I'm like, girl, we could have done better, but it's okay. But anyway, my point is like, sometimes your gifts find you, sometimes you find it, right? And I think as a kid, it was just around me. I just never knew it. As an adult, it literally was like, let's go. It's time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at what moment did it dawn on you that, I have a gift? I have something that if I really put effort and put work into it, it could become something. Was that when you were a kid? Did this happen like later on in life?
No. So as a kid, I never heard like, oh, you're so creative. It was just like, you're so busy. Like we need to channel something here. Right. So you don't really hear that as a kid. In most cases, like, you're so creative. Like I never drew. I didn't used to draw. I never sketched. I just sewed. Like, I used to do, like homes. I thought maybe I was a home person. Like, So in cooking in now, I mean, then was not like creative. It was more like know how to cook, you know how to. So now people are fascinated by that. Like you could bake and you could cook and you can sew and you can do flowers and you can do all these things. I never went to school for floral design. I just
Mm.
picked it up. Right. So I'm more of like watching and reproduce and add my personal spin to it. But that did not unravel till I was older. But when I was planning my wedding 11 years ago, and I was looking around for vendors and talking to people, I just felt like very underwhelmed in the process. Like, you know, now I get it as a creative, having people do all these things that you can do, but I didn't know I could do it was killing me. And I was like, what am I missing here? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this. And I didn't have the proper tools, I would say. Like, I'm like, how do people do pipe and drape? And I'll buy the fabric. And I'm like, how do people make menu cards? And I was like, I guess you need paper and you need a glue gun and you need crystals. And I started gluing things. And my husband was so sick of me because every time he came home, there was stuff everywhere. I was at Michael's every day and he was just like, very nice, you know, like great job. But I just threw myself into it. And then I found that I started to enjoy it and it is part of my process. I would never advise anyone to plan their wedding. That is absolutely not. Don't do it. And then I was still catering. So not only did I plan the wedding, I also was in charge of the food and the beverage, which was it was a lot. I would never do that again. And I would never advise anyone to do that. But that was my okay. But I never could really call myself a wedding planner until I planned someone else's wedding. Right. So when I had I'm not me, but like a natural person, I get the money. And someone was crazy enough to pay me $700 cash to plan their wedding. I was like, what? You know? So I'm like, this is it. And then of course, when you get your first business card and you get your website done and you get all these things, and you're like, okay. But it takes a while to actually look at it as a profession, let alone for someone else to look at it. Like I didn't take it like I'm a wedding planner. It was just more like,
Right.
can I do your wedding, please? You know, I
Uh-huh.
mean, maybe whatever. I didn't really have a fee, but I think as you start to accept your talents and gifts and start to see your traits and things that bring joy to other people as a gift, then you start to own that. And then you're like, okay, you know, of course you go from wedding planner to entrepreneur, like, okay, where did that come from? You know, so like, what does that even mean? And what makes me an entrepreneur? So it's a gradual process. You grow. For me, I grew into it gradually, slowly, reluctantly. And then you just get to a point of acceptance where you're like, you know what? You're good at this. Now let's just explore and see how far you can push it. And that's when you really see that game change where you see like you move differently, you're more confident, you're starting to care less about what people think, and you're all about the end result, and you really want to make people happy and smile. And I just go with that every day and focus on that. And who knows, right? I'm young. We'll never know when life is gonna take me. But I feel like it's just the beginning and we're just scratching the surface of like whatever is next. I don't know what it is.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned the word confidence. When I think of you, Akeshi, that's what I think of. I think of a person who's confident, not confident in a braggadocious way, but when you look at all the things you've done from you started off doing event planning, dinners, wedding planning, then you got candles, you got books, you got podcasts, you got magazine. You do so many things, and it almost appears from the outside looking in that you're not afraid to fail. You're not afraid to look however you look in front of people because you're doing so many different things. Because every time you start something new, there's an opportunity to fail. There's an opportunity to potentially embarrass yourself or whatever some people might say. Where does that confidence come from to be willing to start new things? Seemingly sometimes that may not be connected, but I guess a lot of things that you're doing are connected. Where does that confidence come from to say, you know what? I'm launching a podcast. I'm writing another book. I'm starting a magazine. Where does that come from?
And let's be clear that I'm not that confident. I say confident, but I say confident but terrified as hell. Like you're scared, right? Because confidence without that, if to me, becomes arrogance, right? Where anybody can make a mistake, anybody can fall. So I would say confidence, but doing it scared. doing it, to me, that's my level of confidence. Like while I show up here, I may be sweating and I may be terrified, right? But I'm not going to not show up. I'm going to be
Wow.
confident enough to take the next step. And I'm not afraid of trying new things. I will say that. But I'm terrified doing it always.
Mm.
But I've learned to work with my fear as my annoying neighbor that would never move, just there. But I'm like, all right, let's go. We're gonna do it. Like, if you're gonna stay with me, we're gonna do it together. So me, fear, let's go. So I'm not afraid of investing money or time into something I'm passionate about. As long as I'm passionate about it and I'm happy doing it and I find joy in it and I know that I will be serving others because the mission is not about me. The mission is beyond me. It's about the people that I want to just shine any kind of joy on, right? So sometimes when fear kicks in, which it will always, I try to look at where headed, who I'm trying to help. Like, is my fear worth? So if I even need my help right now and they're just waiting for me and I say, oh, because I'm scared, I'm not going to do it. 5 people have lost an opportunity to be happier or to be more creative or to be elevated. And that becomes selfish on my part, right? So do you hide your gift because you're scared or because someone who actually is irrelevant at this moment is going to say something, is going to feel something. So every single time I have that moment of like, but I'm like shaking and I'm like, but we're still moving. We're terrified. It's like, that dream where you have where you have to book whatever, but you're scared, but you keep moving forward. And that's how I approach things. There's always going to be fear, no matter how good you are, no matter how confident you may seem, there's a little bit of fear in there. And actually, I think we need it because that fear, doing it scared, like, okay, I went forward, I can't mess it up and go back. So yeah, fear is good. I think fear is useful. But no, I wanted to make sure I didn't sound like, oh, I'm confident. I'm never scared. I'm always scared.
No, I
But I'm always
appreciate
moving forward.
absolutely. I appreciate your candor, Akeshi, because it's not often that people who accomplish what you've been able to accomplish also are so candid and open about the fact that, yeah, they're trying these new things. Yeah, they're stepping out on faith. Yeah, they feel confident about some of their abilities, but they also have this underlying fear. And I think you're one of the first people I've ever heard explain that balance between the fear and the confidence and how the fear, you're actually better off. You feel like you're actually better off having that fear.
Yes.
So that's
You have
a
to use your fear. Yeah. So I try to use my fear. It's like, okay, and I ask myself, why are you so scared? And a lot of times we're scared because it's not failure per se. It's more people. If what it's really always centered around other people. If you really, really, really are honest with yourself. And then you have to ask yourself, are those people's opinions so much stronger than your desire to do something, than your passion? And the answer is always no, right? The naysayer's opinion can never outweigh my desire to bring joy or creativity and beauty to this world and help other people do the same, right? So again, that's why I said, if you shift to the position of service, then it's beyond me. Me scared, that's to the side. What I want to do with this information and talent is bigger than these little moments of like panic and fear. So I'm like, all right, let's do it together. It's like, do it, but do it scared. Use the fear as motivation and use the fear as a reminder that you can't go back. Like, you can't mess this up, which means you need to do it from a place of excellence and give it your all. And you can't be half in, 50-50. It's all in, give it your all, knock it out, and move on to the bigger thing. I don't know.
Absolutely. Man, Akeshi, I'm enjoying this conversation so much. I feel like you've given me some tips. And so this is for the viewers, but man, this is for me too. You coach me up. So I'm going to actually have you proverbially put your coaching hat on. I'm going to ask you some questions as we kind of wrap up here. But imagine if you could go back, 5 years ago and talk to the 18-year-old Akeshi. Imagine if you could go back and talk to the young you. What advice, what career advice, what life advice would you give to that bright-eyed and bushy-tailed 18-year-old Akeshi?
Oh, life advice is that I would to cherish the little moments, That would be it's to not take time for granted or people, right? So you grow up thinking for example, you grow up thinking your parents just don't see the end ever, right? And as you get older, life happens and you're like, man, but as a kid, there was nothing that prepared me for. So I would cherish those moments a little bit more. I would tell myself as we just embrace the small moments in life and spend time, a little bit more time with it. 1 more minute with someone you love. 2 more minutes, longer phone call, and not be in such a rush because we take the people we care about for granted sometimes because we assume they'll be there forever, right? So I think that's in terms of like in entrepreneurship, it wouldn't change from what I believe now. It just if you feel strongly about it, you owe it to yourself to explore it. If something is tugging at you, an idea, a business, a person, whatever it is, go for it. Otherwise, you don't know until you know, and until you throw yourself into this unknown, you just never know. And there's a what if, like what if it works out? What if it becomes successful? You never know. And to me, that kills me. Like I need to know if this is going to work, and the only way I'm going to know is to throw myself in it 100%. So I'd say business-wise, is to just whatever's tugging at your heart that you feel passionate about, go for it.
It seems like both of those answers, one of the core ideas behind it is you don't like to have regrets. You want to make sure that you don't regret not doing something or regret not using your time wisely. You don't want to regret the time that you could have had with a person or an idea that you could have had or something that you could have pursued. Am I right in seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say if you, now that I never actually thought about it that way, but I would say you are absolutely correct. I think when I think about regret, I don't want to regret anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A couple more questions.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. A couple more questions. What if you had to give advice to somebody who was up and coming and an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe not even in the space that you're in? What are there any books? Are there any educational resources that you feel like have helped you out along your journey that may help someone else out?
I think there's so many, right? I throw myself into so many things. I think one advice I would say is to learn outside of your industry. Like sometimes we get too honed in education wise. If you're a business owner, go learn from someone that's been successful doing something outside your field. Like the podcast I listen to, they're not wedding podcasts, they're just people that inspire me. And I always take one thing and I bring it back into my industry. So I would say like be obsessed with learning anywhere and have your favorite people and people that align with your values and your core beliefs. But it's step outside of your bubble and learn from other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's awesome. So a big part of the creation of this podcast and why we're creating this content is we want to be able to be a resource to aspired entrepreneurs. And we recognize that, as people of African descent, is oftentimes the media that's portraying of us is, shade room, sports, all these different things. And we want to be able to highlight people who are professionals and entrepreneurs. But the focus is not just to create content, but also to eventually create mentor-mentee relationships. Talk to me about mentorship. Have you been mentored by someone before? Have you mentored someone before? And what's your thought process or approach to mentorship?
I am.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Oh,
I hear you now.
So you, okay, perfect. Sorry.
You want me to, do I need to ask the question again? Did you hear? Do you need me to ask the question?
Sorry, you said talk about mentorship and like coaching, right?
Yeah. Your experience. What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. A huge part of my brand is 50% is mentorship. I spend a good amount of time teaching what I've learned, sharing my mistakes so others. So I do have a platform, the Akeshi Experience, for wedding and event pros, and I do courses there. I have a membership where I coach them weekly. It's important for me to pass on what I know and then encourage them to. I'm a believer in making you add your own signature to it. So education is by far one of my biggest investments. I'm not only in giving back and sharing what I know, because I think being an open book is just the best thing ever. There is no information that's secret, share it. But again, I don't want people to go through what I went through. I want to have them skip all the heartache and do it right earlier, right? But also, I believe in investing in education for me. So I'm in several membership. I paid for courses. I'll go to web seminars, and it's vital. And I think that everyone, no matter how successful you are, needs a mentor. Everybody needs some sort of guidance. And there is nothing wrong with learning from someone else. I think that it's a humbling experience to know that you don't know everything. That means there's more. And for me, that's exciting. I love an open door. I'm like, what's in there? So I truly believe that people need to make mentorship on both sides. While you receive information, you owe it to someone else to pass that on to. So if you learn something, share it with someone. And even if they didn't ask you, like my friends know, I would text them in a heartbeat and like, let me tell you what I just learned, or listen to this. This was amazing, or check out this resource. I think sharing is caring, and education is vital, huge for growth and success, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so as we wrap up, first of all, what's the best way for people to find you? I know you got a lot going on. Social media handles, the coaching program, the books, like give us some stuff. How can we connect with you in your mission?
My central place, so that's why, the beauty of a personal brand is I have a central place for everything. So if you go to akeshiakinseye.com, it'll link you to all my crazy ideas and all my multiple brands, but that's my core place to hang out. Same thing on Instagram. So my name or Akeshi Events, either way, if you search me, you find me, and I'm everywhere. But the best place to find everything in one place would be akeshiakinseye.com.
That is awesome. Akeshi, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. Your story is inspirational. The nuggets that you dropped have excited me. I'm definitely that piece about the confidence and the fear, that I feel like that just resonates with me so much. I can't wait for this episode to come out so people can hear your story and hear your thought process on success in business. And so I know how busy you are. I know how much stuff you got going on, how many different plates you're spinning. So it means a lot that you took time to be able to share with us today. And so I just want to thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. I'm honored and so thrilled to be on this amazing platform. And you're doing an amazing job with the podcast. I love the mission. I love the word. And show your receipts. I love it. I love it. So I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Well,